Hey guys, it's Jen from JKatsKreations, and today I am going to be showing you how to make a Deco mesh flower wreath using a Dollar Tree Styrofoam Circle. I know it sounds a little bit different. It's something I've been working on for a few months, and I finally got everything all worked out to where I'm ready to show you guys how I do it. So I'm pretty excited. It's definitely a little different, and I'm hoping you guys are going to like it as much as I do. So to start off, for this one I am using 10-inch mesh. I've already got it all cut up, and I'm actually going to be doing a Halloween theme, which it's kind of funny. I have never made a Halloween wreath. Excuse me. I've been making wreaths for almost 4 years, and I have never made one. I don't know why. I think my biggest problem is that by the time I start thinking about Halloween, it's just too late to make a wreath. I'm not really good with keeping up with holidays. I'm more of a seasonal person. I just feel like, I have more time to make things and sell them. And really the only holiday that, I gear up for is Christmas, like most people. So this is going to be kind of fun because it's Halloween wreath. I've never done one. This was mesh that I've bought years ago. I was actually searching this morning. I think it's discontinued. I don't even think you can get it anymore. It's so old. So I'm going to be using this. This is going to take about 43 petals, 42 to 43 petals, we'll see. And these are 10 by 10 inch squares, as usual, like I do with all of my other flower wreaths. I've just got it all cut up and ready to go. So we're going to be using this color for the petals, and the white will actually be the leaves. And it's going to coordinate with a ribbon rose that I already have made up. This was also, I had made bows for someone years ago. This was the only reason why I had any kind of Halloween theme ribbon, and luckily I had enough to make the rose. So I thought that this would be cute together to make a nice Halloween flower. And I have a tutorial for this that I will put in the description below, so you guys can check it out if you're interested to make the center for a wreath. So get that out of the way. So yes, I did say it is going to be a Dollar Tree styrofoam disc or circle, however you call it. You get 2 in a pack for $1, and they are 4.8 inches in diameter and 3/4 of an inch thick. This is the 2-pack. So not bad. So pretty much our wreath frame is going to cost 50 cents, which is a lot cheaper than any frame. This is just what it looks like by itself, and I will obviously explain what all of this means. So to go along with that, I have some ribbon rules that I'm using to help with measurements. I try to find common things to help you guys make measurements for things when you need to, so that's why I've got some of these hanging around. What I'm using to attach all of the mesh petals are floral pins. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with these. They are common in wreath making, more along the lines if you're using florals. You can use these like on a straw wreath frame or the styrofoam tube wreath frames. So that's what these are. They're very sharp. I don't know if I can get that to focus, but the ends are incredibly sharp, so you have to be really careful when you're working with these. And these are actually pretty inexpensive too. It was like $325 for like $6.50 on Amazon, and if you get them at a regular store, probably Walmart or any of the craft stores, maybe even like home improvement stores, you might be able to pick them up a little bit cheaper. But I usually get a lot of stuff from Amazon just because I'm lazy, which I've told you guys that before, so you know that. Hot glue. I have been using a glue gun up until today. Will be the first time I decided to try. I got one of these little glue skillets. It's just a little cute one. I didn't need anything big, major. They have all different sizes. I like the fact that it keeps the glue at a lower temperature. Even with the high heat, on the glue gun for the styrofoam, it doesn't melt it. It's actually, I don't know why they're different sometimes, but it's more of a denser styrofoam maybe. So even with using the higher heat on the hot glue gun, I have not had any issues with it eating the styrofoam or melting anything or anything like that. So that's what I said, you know, it works, but sometimes the glue gun itself, after it's been on for a really long time, seems to get really, really hot. And I don't really like that. I'm not really comfortable with leaving it on for a really long time. So I'm going to try this little glue skillet out and see how that works for this. We will need one pipe cleaner, which is strange because I'm used to using so many more. I have a marker. That's what I use to make the marks. Measuring tape. If you watch my previous videos, I still have my good old pink measuring tape that I cut in half a long time ago. We're going to be using that for just making marks here too. And if you have a ruler, you know, anything, whatever you have. This is plastic canvas. Can be found in like needlepoint crochet sections. I'll put a link to what I get on Amazon just so you guys can see what it is in case you're not familiar with it. And you're going to need some felt and scissors for your felt. And I think I got everything. So I'm going to start and sort of explain what these marks are for and what that's all about. So because we start with a blank disc, I needed to come up with a way to have points of attachment, basically. You know, obviously with a wire frame, you know, you have something to work with to kind of keep everything even. So what I did, what I came up with, is I just make marks so you guys can see. I don't know, it's being fuzzy. There we go. About an inch apart. It doesn't have to be totally exact, but about an inch apart. And I just go around and the whole thing, and I just make little marks with the Sharpie. So there's going to be 15 marks on the outside, which will be the white mesh that I showed you, which will be the leaves of this particular flower. So it's going to be 15 of those, about an inch apart. And then for this middle circle, I ended up, it is a roll, which it seems to be a pretty common size, the 1.5 by 10 yard size ribbon rolls. And I just put that there. And the spacing on this from the circle to the edge is about 1/2 inch. And I just kind of go around, make sure it's even, and I trace the circle. The purpose of the circle is that there will be 3 rows of petals on this disc. You have your first row is going to be on the outside. Your second row is going to be going in this circle. So it's just a guide, as if it were a ring on a regular metal frame. So, you know, just kind of the idea of this is the outer row, this will be the next row. And then actually the one on the inside, I don't measure out, I just kind of eyeball it. And you'll see when we get there that, you know, it's kind of, you just kind of go around. It's not something that really needs to be measured out. So this is just a guide to keep me in place of when I'm going around. So I've got that all set and ready to go. And another thing, another piece of felt is what I'm going to be using to cover the back when it's all said and done. And what I found something else to be a good size for covering the back, I could have a little bit smaller, is the ribbon that's 2.5 inches on the 25 yard roll. This is just one of the ones I have. So it's just something else, you know, like I said, I try to find things that, you know, you guys probably have laying around to use as measurements. So you're not trying to hunt down, you know, weird stuff. So hopefully that helps. And let me just get some of my stuff out of the way. Okay. And get my floral pins. As I said, these skins are very, very sharp, so please be careful if you're not used to working with them. I had a bunch of them laying around, and you know, I was just trying to come up with a way to make a wreath that was a little bit smaller. The finished size on this is about 22 inches, which I had always wanted to be able to make a little bit smaller of a flower wreath. My really big Deco mesh one comes in at 26 inches, and it's big, and it's a lot of work, which I always love the end result on them, but it just kind of started to wear on me, honestly, making a lot of them. So I just wanted to come up with something that was a little bit smaller, used a little bit less material, you know, a little bit cheaper to make, but it's still very full and very pretty wreath, I think. So, you know, hopefully you guys will agree. So I've got my little glue pot. I'm probably going to keep this off camera just so I have enough room, but like I said, I'm going to give this thing a go, see how I like it, and I figure it might be a little bit easier just having something to dip the pins into than using the hot glue gun. The hot glue gun works, but like I said, I just wanted to try something a little bit easier, and hopefully, you know, it doesn't get as hot. So the white will be on the outside. So we're just going to do the normal petal fold that I do for all the flowers. Fold down the points like that, and we're going to scrunch it up. Like that. Make sure they're even. The usual, if you've watched my flower videos, this is all very familiar. So at this point is where things get different. So I give a little squeeze here, and I take the floral pin. Now also be very careful. I go closer to the bottom and kind of in the middle. We're going to be pushing this through, so make sure your thumb on the other side is out of the way. So I'm pushing that through, and then getting it to where it's sitting on top of the pin. And these are, you know, they're fairly wide. I usually kind of give them a little squeeze, so I don't need them that far apart. So I'm just going to dip it into my glue. Let's see how this goes. It's not bad. I mean, it's definitely not as thin as a real hot glue, but I mean, you know, that's the point. You know, I don't need it super hot for working with styrofoam. And it took maybe about 20 minutes or so to heat up. So if you do, you know, I'll put a link to this one if you're interested. But, you know, I didn't think 20 minutes was too bad. I just cut up some little glue sticks and threw them in there just to see what would happen. And it seemed to melt it just fine. So now I have my marks. So I go on the side is where I'm going to put this in. And I just have the mark to line up as the middle of where this goes. And also this is going in the middle of the top and the bottom. And so I just push it in. And then push it all the way down. I usually try to give it a little more of a push. And that is the start of the leaves on the outside. I hope my glue didn't dry up too fast while I was talking. Oh, it seems okay. Next one I'll have to move a little faster so it dries. But I tried a few different glues because I wasn't really sure about using hot glue with styrofoam. I've used Aleene's craft glue. A lot of people may be familiar with that. It works very well, but it takes forever to dry. And by forever, I mean you're talking literally like 10 to 12 hours. So if you're not really interested in using hot glue, I mean the Aleene's, it comes in like the gold bottle. It works very well. It does hold once it dries. It holds, you know, as good, it seems to be, as the hot glue, but it definitely takes forever to dry. So really hot glue was the best for my purposes of this because I wanted something that dried a lot faster. I think I'm probably just spoiled because I use hot glue a lot anyway, and I'm used to things drying really fast. But, you know, just to kind of put it out there, it did work, but it does take a very long time to dry. So once again, I just give it a little pinch. Get your pin. And then push it through. Slide that up. Stringy. Okay. And then just go to the next one. Like that. Push it in. Push it down. The lower temperature is a little bit stringier. I'm not really used to that, but that's just me. And just another little push. Now, I will say the pushing does start to hurt after a while. I have been making a few of these because I really kind of had to, you know, I kind of did tests. You know, it's kind of what I was doing all summer, was testing things to make sure that, you know, it wasn't going to pull out, to make sure that the styrofoam could handle all the pins and just whatever. I've had them hanging up to make sure that, you know, the way I'm making the loop on the back is holding up. Like, you know, it was basically just a summer of tests to make sure, because obviously, you know, if I'm making them, I want to make sure that, you know, it's a good solid wreath, but definitely if I'm telling you guys. So, you know, it's just something that, since I've been kind of making a lot of practice ones, you know, your fingers might start to hurt. And it's really no different than if you're using a lot of pipe cleaners. Your fingers will get kind of sore and start to hurt as well. But something I found to do, these have like a little rubbery edge, probably anything with like a rubbery edge. I'll use those to push that in all the way if I need to, which does kind of help save my fingers once, you know, they start getting sore on me. So that's the second one in. And like, you know, you could, this isn't going anywhere. Like, that was my main concern. I wanted to make sure it's not. I have ones that the only purpose they were was for me to pull on them, you know, over and over again, just to make sure that it wasn't coming out. So, you know, rest assured that it's definitely solid. It's not going to go anywhere. So at this point, you know, I've done these two for you. So all I'm going to do is just go all the way around and finish off this outside layer. And then, you know, we'll start working on the next row in. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so I am back now. I have all of the outer petals on the styrofoam circle now. I just wanted to show you guys. That's all done. I'll put it up on the wall at the end like I normally do so you can see the whole thing. And I did realize that I kept saying 15 spots, and I actually have 14. So I do apologize for that. There are 14 marks on this. I have actually had 15 before, depending on just kind of the way they fell when I did it. Because like I said, they're about an inch apart, but sometimes I can end up with kind of a bigger space at the end where I have stuck an extra petal in. So I just wanted to clarify that this one does have 14, but sometimes, like I said, I will have 15. So at this point, I will be moving into putting petals onto this circle in the inner ring that I drew earlier. So I will just be doing the same type of thing that I always do. I'm going to fold the petal. That's the same thing. If you've watched enough of my videos, this is what I do for all of them. And here, going into this inner ring, I actually try to get this a little more towards the back of the fold It's a little bit easier to put on because we're going to be putting them in on an angle at this point. And I also wanted to mention these are 1 3/4 inch long. Now the disc itself is only 3/4 of an inch thick. So at this point, like I said, I will be kind of going in, but then at an angle. You may end up where you have some of the points poking out of the back. At one point when I had first tried this, I had it was just a different brand. I don't know what it was, but I was able to cut them down very easily. I would take off, you know, maybe just a quarter or a half off the tip. And it helped with not having the little end sticking out of the back. But then when I ran out and I bought this brand, is actually the Wreath brand, I can't cut these for the life of me. I tried, like, it's really, really, really hard. So you will most likely end up with a little bit sticking out the back. I will be showing you how I cover that up so it's not an issue. But at this point, you know, when you are doing it, and if you do have to grab the back for any reason, just be careful. But we will be covering it all up at the end, so, you know, there's never any worry that anybody's going to get hurt or, you know, getting poked with it. Okay. So I've got the glue on it, like I've been doing. And at this point, I pretty much just kind of aim to get in between the white ones. So I'm going to go here. Now I push down a little just to kind of get it in there. And then I go at an angle. And that just gets it in there nice. I usually just kind of give it a little push and hold it for a second just so that the hot glue can do its thing. So to show you that up close. So the reason I try to get the pin more in the back is so that when you're sliding it in on the angle, it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of glide across the top of the disc itself. And that may take a little bit of practice to kind of get it to where they slide in nicely. Let's see. And I do have a few little pokes already in the back, so while you're currently working on it, just be careful. But like I said, I'll show you how to cover this up at the end. And I'll just do another one to show you. So the circle, you know, I mean, it's just a guide to try to keep them all in line. You know, on this ring, sometimes I'll use 14, sometimes I'll use 15 petals. It just depends kind of how they fall. Some mesh is thicker than others, so, you know, you may be using an extra petal, you may be using one, you know, one less. You know, it just varies a little bit. So like that, like I said, just more towards the back. Sometimes you gotta weeble a little bit, and there we go. Get it in there. I am liking the glue pot. It is a little different because the glue isn't as hot. It's a little bit thicker than I'm used to, but it does seem to be working very well. And like that, I'm just going to go in between, down, and then slide it. Give it as much of a push as you can in. And then, like I said, just a little smush. Get it in there, make sure the glue gets in there good. And that's going to be it for this row. So all I'm going to do is just continue going around my circle here. I'll let you know at the end if I did 14 or 15 petals, but that's the basis of this ring. So I'll get that done and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have this row done now. I did end up using 15 petals for this one, and just to show you, you see how the white's going to peek out under it, and I'll be doing another layer of this color for the very center ring that I'm going to do. Before I start on that, I just wanted to point out really quick, this ribbon rose that I made, it's about 6 inches in diameter. And honestly, like if you just wanted to stop now and have only the 2 layers of the mesh, you absolutely could, because this is plenty big enough to cover the center. And you know, you're not even close to like having any of this showing in any way. So I just wanted to say that really quick. You know, if you just wanted to have the 2 layers and you know, like this is about 6 inches in diameter, it's more than enough to cover it, and you could pretty much call it done at this point if you really wanted to. Either way, it's fine, it's up to you guys. I'm going to be doing another layer just so you know there's a little bit more of the fullness to it, but either way, like I said, it works and it's fine. This here is probably about 5 inches that you would have to cover, so depending on what you decide that you want to do, that would pretty much be your minimum at this point. So once again, I'm just going to make the petals like I do usually on the inside. I use about 12 or 13 of them. I know on this one I don't draw a circle, I just kind of eyeball this one, and it really doesn't matter because it's going to be covered up by something in the center anyway. So I'll just show you very quickly kind of where I place them in there. And I just wanted to say very quickly, I get a lot of people ask me about fray. A lot of questions about fray. Do I have fray? Yes, right there. I have it. And I answer every single time. All I do is I cut it with scissors. That's it. I trim it and I move on. That's it. I'll just go around at the end of the wreath. Any pieces sticking out, I trim it with scissors. I never pull on it because that can make it worse. But I do trim them all with scissors. I don't use a wood burner. I don't use any kind of glue or spray or anything like that. You know, and I really just don't have any problems with just trimming it, and then pretty much, you know, I just don't touch it anymore. And, you know, I've kind of accepted that, you know, a little bit of fray is just the nature of the beast when you're cutting mesh into pieces like this. You know, but if you want to use the wood burner, you want to use glue, I mean, it's totally up to you. Everybody does something a little different. I'm just saying because I do have a lot of people that ask, so I just wanted to say yes, I have it too. So it's the same kind of thing, you know, just kind of lining up in between what's already here. And, you know, just kind of like, it's pretty much like the same distance in between. You know, I just don't really get as exact. Just kind of smush it down like I did with the other row. And then I'll just, you know, kind of follow off of this one and go around. Like I said, you know, nobody is ever going to see it, so it doesn't have to be completely perfect. If you want to find something and draw yourself another circle, you know, I don't know, maybe like 1/2 inch in to follow along, go right ahead. You know, whatever works for you guys, that's fine. So that's all I'm going to do now is just finish this off. I'll let you know how many I used, and then we'll get into attaching the ribbon rose. So I'll be right back. Okay, I have all of the petals on in the center now. I did end up using 13 on the inside, so I did a total of 42 petals for the entire wreath, which actually it's about half of what I would normally use on my big flowers. The ones that would come out at about 26 inches would be their finished size. So it's pretty much half the product that I would use. And then once I hang this up on the wall, I think you guys will agree that it's still very full. You know, it's still a very nice wreath for pretty much, you know, half the amount of products. And then obviously with using the styrofoam circle, you know, for 50 cents, your wreath frame, you know, you really can't beat it. So at this point, I will be attaching the ribbon rose that I made. When I was figuring out how to do this, It took me a little bit, and then right now I'm just twisting the ends of the pipe cleaner together. I'll link to this tutorial so you guys can see how I make this. But this is the best way I've come up with in order to attach this. This was actually very difficult the first time I did it because I felt like I completely ruined it and there's no going back. So I'm just going to pretty much eyeball the center with a pair of scissors and give a little twist to make a circle. Make sure you guys can see that. It's a circle. It goes all the way through to the back. So now it's just easier to get the pipe cleaners through the back if I twist them together. So I'm just going to stick them through the hole. Just get that pushed through. So now we're going to flip it over. And just be careful once again while you're working back here because of any of the pins, as you can see, you know, how they can poke through a little bit. So just be really careful so you don't poke yourself. Then I untwist them. This is just a little piece of the plastic canvas that I just cut into a little rectangle. And I just kind of eye up the center of it. Doesn't really matter. And get all 4 of the pipe cleaner ends through it. It's like that, they're all through. Then I push this down, the grid part, all the way flat to the foam, once again being very careful because of the pins. And at this point I just really pull it as tight as I possibly can, because the whole point is that this is going to be holding the center on, and you want it to be tight to where there's no way the center is going to move. So it's kind of like I pull it pretty tight and then I pull a little bit more just to make sure. Then I just take the pipe cleaners and I kind of twist them around themselves. At this point I flip it back over and you see how our rose is nice and set down in there at this point. And I make sure I like where it is. This is something you can obviously, you know, fix it up after the fact. My whole purpose at this point right now is just to make sure that it's tight and there's no wiggle. And, you know, pretty much it's never going to be able to slide up and down, back and forth, any which way. So it is very tight in there, which is what I want. So I'm going to flip it back over. At this point, I cut off the ends of the pipe cleaners. And I just give them a little smush down there. This is where your hot glue gun is going to come into play. I did say in the beginning we would be using it either way. So all I do at this point, I just kind of gently lift up the plastic grid, and I'm going to be hot gluing this down. And actually this is why my Sharpie is covered in glue. I use it as kind of a little pusher. You just find something to you know, push this down, make sure it sticks to itself. And you just want to make sure that this is really secure, this is really good, because this is what holds your center on. So You can also add some floral pins at this point into here. I'll usually put one on either side, just trying to be careful working, you know, with the hot glue still being hot, but just trying to get it in there somewhere as much as you can. It just gives it a little more security that it's not going to go anywhere. And just give it a little bit more, make sure. And then to, you know, we have some bumpies here. Like the plastic canvas, we usually cover up most of the sharp ends sticking out. But just in case, because like I said, I really would never want anyone to poke themselves or have a problem. So I take a piece of felt and I just cut out something big enough to cover the whole thing. So like that, sort of like a band-aid over it. And then I will have my circle that I cut to cover the whole back. So it's kind of like doubling it up just to make sure that, you know, there's never going to be anything sticking out that could poke someone, and kind of smooths it all out, covers it up. So that's all I'm going to do right now is just glue on this piece. So that's easy enough, just covers it all up, and you know, also gives the whole thing a little more security of, you know, most likely never having an issue with anything loosening up or letting go or anything of that nature. Like I said, you know, I've had a few practice ones that I made over the summer, and you know, where I said that like my purpose was to just kind of pull on them and test them and see if I could get them to come apart and things like that. And you know, everything worked out. Everything that I've been doing, I haven't had any issues with anything coming apart. So that's good to go. And now I just flip it over, kind of see, you know, where the center, because I'm going to now be attaching the little loop to hang it. So I'm just kind of trying to see which way I want this to go. And for that, once again, it's just another floral pin. And I just make a little pipe cleaner loop, wrap it around, twist it together, and I cut off the extra ends that I didn't need. This is going to be the hanger for the whole flower. Okay, so I think I just look at it head on, and then I just put my finger in the spot in the back where I'm going to put the floral pin. Put me a little X. I do put glue on this before I stick it in. Okay, so pretty much right there. And get that pushed down in there as far as you can go. So that'll be our hanging loop. And then the last part of the process will be the felt circle that I had cut to cover the back. You could use the circles and just use that to cover, as something to trace out. I just wanted it to be slightly bigger, which is why in the beginning I had showed you guys, using something like this, because I just wanted to cover up, these ends a little bit. This is about a 5.5 inch circle. But whatever you guys have on hand, or whatever you want to do, but I just kind of wanted to hide those ends a little bit more, so that's why I just went a little bit bigger on that. So I just kind of get this centered up on here, and we're just going to glue this down now. Let's get a little on both sides here. I usually do one half first, then the other half. It's a little bit easier. Kind of get it all stuck down where I want it. I do try to get a little bit over here on the pipe cleaner part, just another little extra insurance. That's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So, I usually just kind of hold it, push it down, make sure everything's good. But at this point, we could pretty much call it done. Before I hang it up, I just wanted to ask a question really quickly to you guys. Since I am using a Dollar Tree Styrofoam Circle to make this wreath, I do have a lot of people ask me about using the 6-inch Dollar Tree mesh for making flowers. I've never used it. It's only, we just have a Dollar Tree that opened up a few months ago where I am. So, that's why I'm just kind of starting to, get into what they have there. So I kind of wanted to put it out there to you guys if you're interested or not in having me make a flower wreath with the styrofoam circle with mesh. And then maybe, if I could find something else there for a center. Whether or not you guys would be interested in seeing me do a video for that. So just let me know in the comment section if that's something you guys think that you might want to see me do, and I can definitely get that done for you. So I'm going to hang this up now so we can take a look. Okay. Back up a little bit. Okay, so this is our finished flower, which, as you can see, pretty much looks like my other flowers, which, in that sense, it's not, groundbreaking and that way, but at the same time, that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want it to look really different. It's just a little bit smaller. So I'll come in, you guys can see, there's the rose. And so this is 3 layers of petals. So, the white and then the 2 orange and black. I've got my fray that I'll have to go and cut. And that's what I do at this point. I just trim them all off. And that's it. And here's the side view. As you can see, it's still nice and full and thick. Like I said, it's about 22 inches. And honestly, this only comes in about 3.5 to 4 inches in depth, so you can actually get these in between screen door and like a front door. So that's kind of a nice thing about it too, is they're thin enough now to fit in between two doors. So I hope you guys like this video. I hope you like the idea. Like I said, let me know in the comment section if you're interested in the whole kind of a Dollar Tree flower. And I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.